When you look at this shot from the movie Gravity and see the actors drift weightlessly against the backdrop of Earth, it truly feels like they are floating in orbit. But in reality, the filmmakers had to simulate zero gravity right here on Earth. It took a clever mix of practical set tricks, cutting-edge visual effects, and really smart lighting, all put together by some of the best VFX studios in the world. So how exactly did the team behind this film create such a convincing illusion of weightlessness, in addition to all the effects and destruction in space? Long before production began, the filmmakers spent 2 years doing previsualization, basically animating the entire movie in advance to get a feel of how it looks beforehand. They used 3D animation software to map out each shot, timing every movement to the second. This let the team figure out camera paths, lighting angles, and actor cues for zero-G scenes ahead of time. The previs was done in collaboration between Framestore and the company called The Third Floor, which was crucial in solving the technical challenges before actual filming. The previs was essentially a low-detail animated version of the entire movie, used as a blueprint. The artists and technical directors worked out the timing of every tumble, in addition to every camera move in advance, solving how to shoot scenes with no gravity. This planning was absolutely vital, given the film's technical complexity, and it guided the construction of rigs, the programming of the robot camera, and the design of every VFX shot. When they began filming, behind the scenes, actors Sandra Bullock and George Clooney did most of their shots on a capsule set with director Alfonso Cuarón, one of the few full-size spacecraft interiors the crew actually built for gravity. The capsule set was one of the only real sets used during filming, and most of what you can see outside and even inside the ISS is actually CGI. This partial capsule allowed the actors to interact with real seat harnesses and controls for certain scenes, which helps a lot if you think about it, especially when they are strapped in during re-entry and launch. The set was conveniently exposed on one side for cameras, and they even added a window, which was larger than the one on set, to suit the cinematography and lighting needs. For the spacewalk and floating scenes, the team couldn't rely on the old tricks alone, tricks such as wires, or the famous Vomit Comet zero-G airplane. And here is a fun fact. In Apollo 13, they filmed actors in brief bursts of real weightlessness on a plane, but only for seconds at a time. But this couldn't work for Cuarón's signature long takes. Instead, they devised an intricate harness system to suspend and move the actors. Sandra Bullock, for example, was often strapped into a 12-wire rig, literally set up where she was attached, at up to 4 points, each with 3 wires. This arrangement let the crew control her body in mid-air with precision. In fact, the director enlisted puppeteers from the stage show Warhorse to operate the rig, moving the actress as if she was a marionette floating in space. So by triangulating each attachment point, they could raise, tilt, and twist her body smoothly in any direction without the usual pendulum swing you would get from a single wire. The rig itself could also be programmed and motorized to move along a stage, coordinated with her movements. All of this allowed the actress to push off imaginary spacecraft walls or drill through a cabin while the crew moved her, and the camera was moving in sync to sell the effect. But it wasn't a walk in the park. Every take required careful choreography. The wire puppeteers, the camera motion, and the actor's own acting had to line up perfectly to make it look like she was interacting with an invisible environment. The interesting thing is that they invented other rigs for specific shots too. In some instances, the actor sat at the bicycle seat, essentially a fixed bike saddle, which was a rig to steady her for close-ups. One of her legs was tightly strapped down for safety, so the VFX team later on had to replace that digitally in those specific shots. It sounds crazy, but these hidden supports let her remain comfortably in place while her upper body appeared to float freely. By combining such practical rigs with the acting and camera tricks, the filmmakers gave actors tactical points of reference while keeping them looking weightless on screen. Of course, the visual effects did the heavy lifting. Almost everything beyond the actors' faces was digitally built and animated. In fact, aside from those interior set pieces, visually all the spacecraft, space stations, and even the astronauts' bodies were actually CGI. The VFX artist built highly detailed digital models of the ISS in addition to the spacecraft and astronaut suits. They primarily used Autodesk Maya for 3D modeling in addition to animation, writing a lot of custom code to handle special effects. For example, they coded destruction and debris simulations in Maya to realistically portray explosion satellites in microgravity. Every bolt, panel, and shard of debris was animated with careful physics. The team even 3D scanned actors' faces, using an advanced photography rig to create lifelike digital doubles. This actually gave them high-resolution CG face models that could be used for any shots where a full digital actor was needed. In practice, they ended up using real facial footage when needed, simply because pulling off a completely convincing CG face, especially for long shots, is still very hard. In fact, it is the hardest thing to do in VFX. For any scene of Bullock or Clooney, drifting in space in the suit, typically only their face was real, and the entire spacesuit, their limbs, and the earth behind them and stars were created using 3D software. The VFX team at Framestore, which was the lead VFX house, essentially created digital body doubles wherever you see them on space. They tracked the actors' movements and then animated a weightless body, in addition to the suit around their real facial performance. The result was seamless actually. Most people believed the whole suit figure is them, floating freely. But here's the thing. Making these digital scenes, especially to look convincingly weightless, was a huge challenge. The animators and artists had to obey real physics, or at least a cinematic version of it. You see, in microgravity, objects don't just fall or slow down on their way. As one VFX supervisor put it, in outer space, there is no up and there is no down. And once something starts moving, it keeps moving until another force stops it. The team actually spent time with real astronauts and physics experts to get the motion right. They pre-visualized the entire movie as an animated storyboard, or an animatic, to plan out how every object and every person would move in zero-G. Animators had to unlearn the instincts of animated gravity-bound motion. For example, if an astronaut in a film trembles away after pushing off, they won't slow down or stop rotating unless something else intervenes, which is a detail real astronauts advised them to pay attention to. Even tiny things like how a detached screw or a droplet of water flows had to follow believable zero-G behavior to keep the audience immersed. The VFX team also wrote custom physics simulation code to handle the film's intense destruction sequences. When satellite debris is whizzing around, or the ISS is breaking apart, the motion had to feel real without gravity. They couldn't rely on usual visual cheats, like making debris clearly slow down or adding air resistance, because there is no air in space. So the VFX team developed their own fragmentation and debris physics tools, and they did this inside Autodesk Maya to get it right. In early tests with simple wireframe objects, they saw debris behaving in an eerily realistic zero-G way, pieces spinning and moving along straight line paths until collision, rather than dropping or falling. The lack of atmospheric blur or dust also meant the renders had to hold up in crystal clear vacuum, which is tough. As VFX supervisor Tim Weber noted, the explosion in space doesn't have the familiar billowing smoke or the wave shock we expect, so they had to imagine and create those visuals from scratch. For complex effects, especially the destruction of the Chinese space station, in addition to the capsule re-entry, the team turned to Houdini, a procedural effects software. Rises Some Pictures, a VFX house that handled the re-entry sequence, integrated Framestore's models into their Houdini pipeline for things like breaking of the station and the billowing plasma as the capsule burns through the atmosphere. Houdini's tools help generate the cascading pieces of debris and the interaction of objects without gravity, all of which were then rendered to look photorealistic. To merge the live-action actors with all the CGI, the film mostly avoided using green screen during filming. But why that is, you might ask? Well, because the film's innovative lighting setup would have made green screens problematic. You see, real light would spill everywhere and ruin the look. Instead, they shot with the actors against active LED backgrounds, and then later rotoscoped each frame to separate the actor from the background. It is painstaking work, but it preserved the lighting on the actor's suit and face. Those cutout performances were then composited into the fully digital environment in post-production. They went through this painstaking work because behind the scenes they used the innovative lightbox rig used for gravity, so actors were placed inside the cube of programmable LED panels, while a robotic camera arm moved around them. This allowed real-time lighting changes to simulate Earth and sunlight, and gave actors a visual reference for the CGI world around them. The lightbox was essentially a hollow cube made of LED screens, 20 feet tall and 10 feet wide. Like a small room whose walls and ceilings were giant video displays, it was composed of 196 screen panels, each loaded with 4,096 LED lights. Those LED walls could project any imagery or color imaginable, and each LED's brightness and hue could be changed instantly by computer controls. This meant the crew could literally move the sun at a touch of a button, switching from the harsh glare of direct sunlight to the soft glow of Earth's bounce lighting in milliseconds, or even sweeping light across the actors to mimic a sunrise in orbit. The lightbox could also display panoramas of Earth, stars, or spacecraft on its walls, so that light could accurately reflect on the actors' visors, in addition to their suits from the right angles. The compositing artist even added subtle touches like the reflections, lens flares, and visor fog to blend the live faces with the CGI helmets and space around them. For instance, every little breath on the astronaut's helmet visor was actually hand animated in sync with the actor's breathing. As you can see, all this hard work on all these VFX techniques, which sometimes don't make sense, to the average person, come together so that the audience feels the astronaut's presence and weightlessness, in addition to the effects and distractions in space that we don't see every day, feel realistic and believable. And there you have it, guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, please subscribe to the channel to receive more videos like this. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.